Hi everyone, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with a special weekly update straight from CPAC here in National Harbor, Maryland, which is just outside Washington, D.C. For those of you who don't know, CPAC is one of the nation's largest gatherings of conservatives. All the politicians, all the public policy activists come here to listen to speeches and link up with each other and listen, learn, and organize. The left does this in ways that are much more significant and regular than conservatives. So this CPAC meeting is especially important, and Judicial Watch has been participating here for years as a sponsor. And I gave a presentation yesterday to the audience, which was well received. So rather than doing my regular update here for you, I'm going to give you a version of the talk I gave to the CPAC audience because it was if I may say so myself, a pretty good summary of the current crisis we're in. And our republic is under attack. And it's not just the president, it's an attack on our republic at the borders, it's an attack on the rule of law at the ballot box as well. So in many ways, our republic is tottering. I mean, the president was impeached and almost removed. We've got this tremendous pressure at the borders. The president's taken some aggressive steps to protect us, but there's still a lot more that needs to be done. And then there's this sustained assault on election integrity that Judicial Watch is trying to oppose and push back against and taking proactive measures to make sure that your elections are cleaner. But of course, you know, at least with the current crisis, the attack on our republic has been kind of a low-grade fever for the last 20 years or so, but it really metastasized under President Trump and frankly during the 2016 election. They had Hillary Clinton, who was a flawed candidate in the sense that she was ethically compromised, to put it charitably. And so what was the solution? Well, put their thumb on the scales, the Obama gang did, by targeting and spying on the Trump campaign. Not only doing that, but actually coordinating with the Clinton campaign in doing so. Never before in our nation's history has the administration of a president put all of his intelligence agencies, all of his law enforcement agencies at the federal level at the cause of a political candidate running for the presidency. It's never happened before. We had issues with Nixon and Johnson and things like that, but nothing as significant as what Obama did against Trump. And as I said, it wasn't just Obama, it was a coordinated campaign with Hillary Clinton. Judicial Watch has exposed the information that even the FBI was coordinating with the Clinton campaign, meeting with their top lawyers. And so Judicial Watch in the middle of that, and we had begun asking questions about Hillary Clinton many years earlier, but you know, the cover-up exploded in 2016 in the sense that Judicial Watch uncovered the Clinton email scandal, and it all came to a head in 2016. So that obstruction blew up in her face in many ways because a judge was very upset, granted us discovery. We had individuals from the top echelons of her campaign and her advisors having to testify under oath. We exposed the pay-to-play scandal as a result of these emails that we were unable to uncover. That really shook her campaign as well. And we weren't doing this to shake her campaign. It was just the fact that they had hidden these emails from us until 2016, and it came out at the worst possible time for her. So the results were she lost. But the left doesn't take a loss at the ballot box to heart. They just keep on going. And with President Trump, they continued the assault. They continued to push this Russia smear operation. They continued the spy operation. The State Department under Barack Obama was sending information over to the Justice Department and the FBI. They were even calling the Russian embassy. I don't know what they were talking about specifically, but it was Russiagate for sure. We have the documents. And then you had James Comey and Barack Obama meeting in the Oval Office about that shady dossier just a few weeks before President Trump is to raise his hand for the oath of office. And then Comey takes that dossier, goes to President Trump, or President-elect Trump, the day after his meeting with Obama, to try to entrap and ambush him. It was a spy operation personally conducted by James Comey. with the approval of Barack Obama. Obama knew. Obama knew. And then on top of that, you had the leaks by James Comey later, after the president rightly fired him for his untrustworthy behavior. He leaked information, classified FBI files of President Trump, with the specific hopes of getting a special counsel appointed as part of his vendetta against the president for firing him. And he got a special counsel through his buddy Rod Rosenstein. We have the documents showing that Rod Rosenstein, the president's own appointee, was conspiring with Andrew McCabe to wear a wire on the president in the Oval Office. We're talking about invoking the 25th Amendment improperly to try to remove him from office. And as part of that coup discussion, and it was a coup discussion, they were talking about appointing a special counsel, and of course Mueller, the anti-Trump Mueller, was appointed. So Mueller went and hired all these Democrat activist lawyers to try to take out President Trump. Now, the president is an innocent man, and thankfully the justice system worked, at least, of making sure he wasn't prosecuted. But they harassed him for 2 years, knowing there was never any reliable evidence of Russia collusion. No evidence at all. So the Mueller operation failed. So what next? How did the coup continue? Well, they were trying to push Mueller. They tried to get this Muller report. And tied into that, they decided, well, we'll just make up this concern about Ukraine. The president was concerned about Ukraine's role in all of this, and he had every right to be. So they concocted this Ukraine smear against President Trump, which had the goal of protecting, it looks like, Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, which had the goal of protecting and freezing the Justice Department from doing anything for the criminal Spygate operation against him. I mean, you have to remember, Mueller imploded. The IG report issued, the IG issued a report showing criminal behavior in the spying on President Trump. They were lying about FISA. They never had a good faith-based reason to spy on the president. It was about, they say they were spying on Carter Page. No, it was about President Trump. And the IG confirmed what we knew for years. It was an illegal spy operation against the President of the United States. So the coup cabal had a big problem. They were facing prosecution. Joe Biden was facing potential investigation because the president was taking notice of the fact that the Ukrainians were targeting him while helping Hillary in the elections. So they concocted this Ukraine smear. And they hijacked Congress. They abused the House of Representatives' power of impeachment in ways never seen before. Violated the president's civil rights 6 ways to Sunday. Provided him no right to confront his accuser, no reasonable right of representation, the sorts of basic rights any prior president would have gotten in a previous case. Then they went to the Senate and tried to pressure the Senate and hijack the Senate, and thankfully there are enough senators who didn't want to play this game, and the president was acquitted. So you think it's you may think that it was a guaranteed result, that the president was guaranteed to be acquitted. You can't take that point of view. They were attacking our republic. They wanted the Vindmans of the world. Remember Lieutenant Colonel Vindman? They wanted the guy who should be president rather than you. And in doing so, they had the, as I say, the icing on the cake for that was they were protecting themselves from being prosecuted. So that was an attack on our republic, on the president and presidency. President's civil rights were violated. He's a crime victim. And an attack on your right to govern yourselves. So you got that section of the, in terms of the full throttle assault on our republic, you had the attack on President Trump. Now, concurrently with all of this, you had the left organizing and subsidizing and pushing and praising mass caravans designed to break our borders. Now, I don't know about you, but I think if there are no borders, we have no country. So they were seeking to erase the borders. Fundamental threat to our Republican form of government. No borders, no country. The president reacted appropriately, took steps, building the wall, changing the asylum rules, changing the various rules that allowed illegal aliens to stay, or to cross and remain in the country. He made that much more difficult. Over the objections of anti-Trump judges, over the objections of the media class, over the objections of, and despite the efforts of the open borders crowd to further inflame the border crisis. But in the meantime, we have these sanctuary policies that have grown like mushrooms under a rock that protect and aid and abet criminal illegal aliens. They're magnets for illegal aliens. They've turned, if you live in a sanctuary city, your town is a border town as sure as one on the Texas border. Because illegal aliens can come there and feel like they won't be turned into the feds. Even worse, criminal illegal aliens can go there, commit crimes, be picked up, serve time, and still not be picked up by the feds thanks to these sanctuary policies. And I was glad to see Attorney General Barr announce that he may begin the criminal investigation and prosecution of sanctuary city politicians that aided and abet this criminal activity. I have an old-fashioned approach to immigration reform. This is the best reform. Enforce the law. Deport those who are here illegally. They should all go home. Of course, there are going to be exceptions, but the exceptions prove the rule. If you're not here legally, you ought to go home. And we can see with the coronavirus how important our borders are to our, not only our national security, but to our economic and public health. So this is a real crisis. We've got to preserve the country and our borders. Otherwise, we won't have a country. The same gang trying to remove the president illegally from office is the same gang trying to open up the borders. Another major topic on terms of the assault on the Republic, we have all these public policy debates, right? We have elections. Everyone's, Mike Bloomberg. I'm not working for Mike Bloomberg, by the way. So this is coming to you without any money from Mike Bloomberg. But you got all these campaign advertisements. People are, very active in the campaign. But what if your elections are stolen? What if that's all for naught? That's a real crisis for the Republic as well. It all becomes a joke. So what do we do to preserve and protect clean elections? We make sure there's voter ID. We make sure this is a needed reform. We have citizenship verification. You know why? Because an alien, legal and otherwise, there are tens of millions of them here in the United States. A good percentage are going to register to vote. And of those, some will vote. And once you're registered to vote, voter ID isn't necessarily going to stop you from voting, even if you're illegally registered to vote. That's why you need citizenship verification to register to vote or to vote. And voter ID is also, as I say, it's not necessarily sufficient, but it's certainly necessary for clean elections. Many key states don't have voter ID. California doesn't have voter ID. Illinois doesn't have voter ID. Pennsylvania doesn't have voter ID. New York doesn't have voter ID. New Jersey doesn't have voter ID. North Carolina doesn't have voter ID. There's a law for voter ID in North Carolina, but the left went and assaulted the law, and activist judges have set it aside despite the voters' wishes. Many big states have voter ID, but they're not as strong a law as you might think. Out of the 50 states in the union, I think 10 or 11 have really strong voter ID laws. All vociferously opposed by the left. And then there's the issue of clean elections in terms of having clean election rolls. Judicial Watch did a study last year, 2.5 million extra names on the voter rolls nationwide. 2.5 million. Believe it or not, that's good news. Because the prior study we had done for the last election cycle, I think it was 2016, it's 3.5 million. And what Judicial Watch does is we go to court to enforce the federal law that requires states to take reasonable steps to clean up the rolls. Many of these states have counties where they have more people on the rolls than are eligible to vote. In Los Angeles County, for instance, we just settled one of those lawsuits, and Los Angeles County, not a conservative county, they agreed to remove up to 1.6 million inactive names from their rolls. Inactive names are people who are either moved away, haven't voted in years, or are dead. They shouldn't be on the rolls. It's a pool for potential voting fraud. The left would have you believe, don't worry about voter fraud. Don't worry about it. Well, you know what? What do you think about voter fraud? How much voter fraud is too much voter fraud for you? 1 million votes? 100,000 votes? 10,000 votes? How about one vote? If it's your vote being lost, that's a major issue. And in this era of close elections, every vote counts. And stolen votes are a civil rights problem. So if the civil rights advocates, so-called civil rights advocates, are really concerned, they should be trying to eliminate voter fraud, because that's vote stealing. That's vote stealing. Now, we can't eliminate all voter fraud, but we can place steps, put up guardrails, cleaner election rolls, voter ID, citizenship verification, other basic rules and regulations to make sure that when people show up to vote, they are who they say they are and they're eligible to vote. And you know what the irony is? When you have better rules and cleaner elections, the studies show more people come out to vote. Why is that? Because they understand their vote will count. And they understand their vote won't be stolen, because people know how the game is played. If they see there's no voter ID, they see all sorts of other improprieties around elections. And why do you think the left hates all of this? We go to clean up the rolls, they go crazy. By the way, we just sent warning letters to 5 other states, California again, North Carolina, Virginia, Colorado. North Carolina, Virginia, Colorado, California. What's the other state? Well, anyway, 4 or 5 states. 19 counties across 5 states. So we're prepared to sue. It's imminent that we'll be suing more states to get them to clean up their rolls. And we don't have terribly high standards. You got more people on the rolls than are eligible to vote. That's a good sign that you're not taking reasonable steps to clean up the rolls. But why does the left want to do this? Why do they hate voter ID? Why do they hate citizenship verification? Why do they promote the craziness of ballot harvesting, like in California, where anyone and everyone can go around collecting votes from third parties and bring them to the election polls? Why do they want to do that? Because in my view, they want to be able to steal elections when necessary. And of course, most Americans agree with me on this. Most sensible Americans want voter ID, clean elections. The left hates it because they want to be able to steal elections. Look at this Electoral College attack, which would make voter fraud even worse of a problem, because if you got more votes in Illinois, even if it beyond what you needed to win the Electoral College, all those votes go to the so-called popular vote. And so places where voter fraud is a problem have an outsized impact on the election beyond, and the Electoral College is designed to prevent that from happening. So of course they're assaulting it. So this is why I say our republic is tottering, because we have this attack on our president. We have these attacks on our borders. We have these attacks on our elections, and the coup is continuing. The attacks are continuing. President Trump was the victim of Russia leaks just last week. Adam Schiff is up at it again, it looks like. Let me say something about Adam Schiff. He should be criminally investigated for his communications with the leaker. He should be questioned in the least. He can't be trusted. He regularly lies. He's unethical. And if I were the president, I would cut him off from access to classified information. He doesn't have access to classified information as a matter of right as a member of Congress. It's the discretion of the executive branch. He should be cut off. They're even smearing Bernie Sanders with Russia. The irony is that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are now crime victims together, victims of illegal classified leaks. Maybe they can sue together. So what needs to be done? Well, the Justice Department needs to get its act together and start prosecuting these people. They're talking about FISA reform. I tell you what the best FISA reform would be: prosecute those criminally involved in illegal spying. Put them in jail. You can change all the rules you want, but if there's no criminal penalty for breaking the rules, it's going to happen again. I was on Lou Dobbs earlier this week. I made the point, the president can still spy on foreigners with or without FISA. The only question is spying on Americans. We'll do just fine even without FISA. So don't let this sky is falling. We can't eliminate FISA. We just have to let it go through. Don't be fooled by it. The courts can't be trusted. They blew it. The FBI and DOJ can't be trusted. They blew it. And I don't see any evidence of significant prosecutions. I hope that changes. Maybe something will happen tomorrow. That's why, in the meantime, Judicial Watch has all of our lawsuits and investigations trying to get the information out so the American people in the least know about it. Because it's much easier for the Justice Department to do nothing if we don't have the full details of the criminality in the Spygate targeting of President Trump and other misconduct. And if I were the president, I would take this approach: prosecutions, pardons. Stone, Flynn, Manafort, everyone caught up in the Muller abuse. And transparency. Give us all the documents. And in the meantime, Judicial Watch will do our FOIA lawsuits. We're in court with Hillary Clinton right now. Outrageously, she is still being defended by the Justice Department. I pointed that out the other day on Lou Dobbs. The president saw that in a tweet and he said, "This is a disgrace." I agree, it is a disgrace. Why are they defending Hillary Clinton? She ain't going away. The statute of limitations is not run on Hillary Clinton. Maybe that's why they're defending her, because they're just desperate to keep her from getting potentially prosecuted. If we're going to protect the republic, we have to take strong legal action, in the least, against those trying to destroy the republic. So if you're a crook and you're a high-level government official, it's got to be that you're held accountable. On immigration, the president's taking some good steps. He should do more. Keep on keeping on immigration. Judicial Watch has lawsuits against those sanctuary policies. For instance, in California, 2 lawsuits, one against San Francisco, the other against San Jose, Santa Clara County, which is where San Jose is. But we're all alone, practically speaking, in challenging these sanctuary policies. We're happy to do the work, but isn't it outrageous that we're doing the work? That's why all these people around here love Judicial Watch. Because we're doing the work that the Justice Department isn't doing or hampering. Congress is completely lost in that regard. The Republican-controlled Senate, what have they done in terms of investigations? Not much at all. So our republic is under assault. But the good news is we're here. You're there. You support us. Track us on our internet site at judicialwatch.org to find out what we're doing. Support our work specifically. We're happy to represent you. We're here to defend you. We have to stand on the line to protect the rule of law and the Constitution from those who would destroy it. And this This has to happen no matter who wins. Our work hasn't changed one lick since President Trump became president. We were suing Bush, the Bush administration trying to get information, sued the Obama administration trying to get information about misconduct. We're suing the Trump administration trying to get information about misconduct. And whatever the next administration is, we'll be doing the same old thing. Because we just can't rely on the politicians and more specifically the deep state to be honest about the corruption here in Washington, D.C. So I appreciate your support. You can go online to see our other great coverage here at CPAC. We had a bunch of great interviews. My colleague Amelia had, I was astonished by the high quality of the guests that we've had. So you want to tune in and watch them. And my presentation from CPAC, you can watch the full formal presentation on here soon as well. But in the meantime, I encourage you to stand with us as we fight to save the country. So thank you, and I'll see you next week here on the Judicial Watch Weekly Update.